You're listening to Boomers Today with your host, Frank Sampson.
Well, welcome to Boomers Today. I'm your host, Frank Sampson. Of course, each week we bring you important and useful information on issues facing baby boomers, their parents, and other loved ones. I just want to personally thank everybody for all their support. Our listeners keep growing each and every day, and it's not because of any other reason but you. I mean, you guys are listening and sharing our podcasts with family and friends, and we really appreciate all the support you have given us. But I think you do that because we have a lot of ways to listen. Certainly, we have our main website, Boomers Today Radio. You can listen to the shows, but I think most of you are listening on various apps. We have our own app, the Boomers Today app, that you can listen to on your iPhone or Android phone. Certainly, we're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, Stitcher, all sorts of different various apps on the internet. So again, thank you. And probably one of the main reasons you listen to our show is because we have great guests. And we have another great guest with us today. We have with us Shayne Silver. Shayne is the co-owner and award-winning of an award-winning real estate team. As a seniors real estate specialist, an SRES, Shayne has been specifically trained to address and meet the concerns and needs of baby boomers and beyond. She understands that this may be a stressful time for families, and she addresses the emotions and challenges one faces when deciding to sell your home or find a home that better meets your specific needs. Shayne applies her expertise, professional network, and passion to ensuring that every transition is a seamless and positive experience. With Shayne, you get a proven, dedicated real estate professional to provide you with the extra skills and personal service you deserve. So Shayne, thank you so much for joining us on Boomers Today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for inviting me here today.
Yeah, so I know that a lot of people don't realize it. I've been in the industry, in the senior care industry, as you know, for a while. So certainly I have great respect for those that specialize in that end of the business, which in the real estate business is called a seniors real estate specialist, SRES, as I know it. Maybe you could explain more why it would be beneficial for a family to work with somebody, and what exactly is a senior real estate specialist for them to work with somebody like yourself.
Sure. So a seniors real estate specialist is a real estate professional who has gone above and beyond in their training to really hone in and learn how to address and meet the needs and concerns of the baby boomer population. I had decided to kind of specialize in that niche after my parents had a not so great experience. And I felt that sometimes the senior population is very often taken advantage of, and I kind of wanted to be that person to protect them. So when you're working with a seniors real estate specialist, we really bring a lot more to the table and really help with every step of the process. A lot of people think, the realtor comes in and just helps with the sale of the home, but we really do more than that. And quite often we help the family even decide if selling the home is the right thing for them. It might not always be. Aging in place might be the best thing for them. But we really bring a customized approach to each situation and each family and each individual. We also have a greater understanding of the resources available and a network with other professionals that we can rely on in the baby boomer space.
Great. So you obviously went for extra training to
Yes.
get this designation. Tell us what you learned. What did you learn in that training to help you deal with the senior population better?
Well, it was a little bit of everything. We work with elder care attorneys and trust and estate attorneys to learn that end of it and how to protect our clients in a slightly different way.
Mm-hmm.
We also work a little bit on the emotional and psychological side of it. You know, a lot of times it's a very emotional transition for some of these people, whether they're just downsizing or they're selling their home to go into the next stage of their life, which may be an independent or assisted living community. It's quite often very emotional. So we learn how to deal with that aspect of it as well, and all the intricacies that go along with it. So, for example, we might assist with the process of decluttering or the actual move and figuring out what's going to work in their new space and what's not. And really just building a network of individuals who can assist in the process from beginning to end, working with the individual and the entire family.
I mean, I would think, and you know, we deal with this in you know, in the senior care industry, but I'm sure you've been confronted with a situation where maybe elderly couple and maybe one of them unfortunately has passed, and for the family says, well, we don't want mom to be in that house alone anymore, and it's a major transition and trauma and all of that. So talk to us just about that and dealing with that type of situation. I'm sure you've been confronted with, and I'm sure we have listeners on the on our podcast that are in that situation or could be in that situation in the future.
Yes, absolutely. And we deal with it quite often. Quite often, one spouse has passed, the other one is now alone in the home. And most of the time will be actually brought in by the adult child who maybe thinks that it's time for mom and dad to move to the next phase and isn't safe at home. So the first thing we'll really do is sit down with the family, the individual and the adult children, and really look at their current space. And for us, it's not all about selling the home. So we quite often work with home healthcare agencies that will come into the home and help determine if the home could be made a safe place for aging in place, if that's really what the individual wants. If it is determined that the individual is going to sell the home and move on to that next step, we really work with the family to figure out what that next step is. And quite often we will bring in a senior placement professional to help them figure out what's the best fit in the next step.
Great.
As well as going through all the things that we need to do to get the home ready to be listed and show ready. So it's really kind of getting the whole family on the same page and dealing with the different emotions that could arise. And quite often we're kind of sometimes stuck in the middle because we might be dealing with an individual and their adult child who have different opinions of what may be the right thing. So quite often we're a little bit of a mediator, but we're really just trying to put everyone's best interest first in figuring out what that next step is.
All right. So I brought up a scenario that just came to mind because, you know, we deal with it all the time. Any other types of clients that you work with that you'd like to talk about?
Yes, so we deal with a few different types of clients. There's three mainly. First would be those clients that are downsizing. And sometimes it's just going from that family home that you've raised your kids in for 20 or 30 years, and now you've decided you don't want to deal with the hassle of a large home, so we're going to be downsizing. And quite often, that comes with a lot of emotions with it, and giving away things or getting rid of things that maybe are sentimental to you and you give them to your children, or you want to give them to your children and they might not feel the same way you do. The second is exactly what you explained. A lot of times we're dealing with individuals who are selling their home because it's not safe for them to live alone anymore, and they're going to that next phase of an independent living or assisted living. And that comes with all kinds of emotions. A lot of times they feel like they're losing their independence, or, oh, that's not a place for me. That's for older individuals with walkers and canes, and I'm too young for that. So we deal with all of those emotions. And then we also deal with the other end. Quite often we may be contacted by an adult child or even a trust and estate attorney or a probate attorney where the individual has already passed away. The home has moved to the children, and the children, for whatever reason, don't want the home and they want to sell it. So those are kind of the three areas that we work in.
Gotcha. And you mentioned, like attorneys that you might get referrals from. I mean, how does the average family kind of find you? How do most people find you? There's a lot of real estate agents out there. So how do they find you?
There is. So I'm proud to say that about 95% of our business is referral based from being out in our community for as long as we have been. So most of our clients will either find us through a friend or family member who may have used us before. Sometimes it comes as a referral from their attorney or their trusted advisor. It might be their financial advisor or their estate attorney. And quite often, also, we work with senior placement professionals. So people like our representative, our local senior care authority representative will also will usually be called in first as someone is looking for that next step or transition. And then they will bring us into the picture once the individual has decided to move and needs to sell the home. So we have a lot of business to business relationships that bring us referrals, as well as our past clients and people that have used us before.
And I'm sure it works the other way too, though, where maybe the family has gotten in touch with somebody to help them in finding the new place, and then they decide maybe to now they're going to sell, once they know where they're going to move. Does it work both ways, or is
Yes,
it usually,
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it works both ways. It works both ways. Sometimes they contact us first because they know they want to sell and make the move, but they don't know where to go. And then we bring in the senior placement professional, and vice versa. So sometimes they're already looking for that place where they want to go. And once they have found it, the senior placement professional will contact us to say, okay, now we need to plan the move and the sale of the home. So it does quite often go both ways, and we work very well together.
Great. So I know that, we have people, the area that you're in. Why don't you explain the area that you're based?
So I am in South Florida. I am particularly in Palm Beach County. So we service some of the major cities that people would have most heard of would be Boca Raton, Delray Beach, Boynton Beach, Lake Worth, Wellington, and the West Palm Beach and Palm Beach Garden area.
So we, as you know, we have people that are listening to this interview from all over the country. If they're listening to this and go, wow, I would like to deal with Shayne, but you're in Southern Florida. How best do you recommend? Should somebody get in touch with you, or do you have a site they can go to find somebody who specializes in this, like yourself? What recommendations do you have?
Absolutely. They can always contact me directly. I actually work with a network of senior real estate specialists throughout the country. So anyone could call me at any time at 561-571-2640, or they can visit my website at www.silverhomesales.com. They can reach out to me and I could introduce them to the seniors real estate specialist in their market.
That's great to know. Thank you for that. So we're going to just take a real quick break here, and I'm going to be right back just to recognize our sponsor, Shayne, and then we'll come back and have a lot more to discuss with you. I want to remind everybody that today's show is sponsored by Senior Care Authority, an elder care consulting organization that has a national network of professionally trained and experienced local advisors to assist families in determining the right path for your loved ones. They'll discuss various long-term care options, whether it's in-home care, assisted living, memory care, nursing, or if you just need an advocate to get some advice from. A local Senior Care Authority advisor can help you now. So for a free 30-minute consultation with an advisor in your area, contact Senior Care Authority at 888-809-1231, or you could go directly to their website at www.seniorcareauthority.com, and you'll be able to just click on the link to find a local advisor in your area. We're back with Shayne Silver. Shayne is the co-owner of an award-winning real estate sales team, And Shayne, this is great information. So I don't want to assume. I mean, I have a wife that was in real estate for quite a number of years, so I kind of understand how commissions and all that works. But maybe you could explain to our listeners, just in case, kind of how it all works. You know, as a seller's agent, as the buyer's agent, how does that all work?
Okay, happy to do that. And it might differ a little bit depending on what state you're in, but I can tell you how it works down here in South Florida. Mm-hmm. So in South Florida, there's usually a seller's agent and a buyer's agent. And down here in South Florida, the seller pays the commission, and that commission is split between the buyer's agent and the seller's agent. There's also, on top of commission, there is an additional cost to selling your home. So there are what we call closing costs. The closing costs can vary. We usually estimate them down here in South Florida as about 2% of the sale price of the home. And those cover the title company, the closing company, all of the recording fees that go to the city and the state. And of course, we would give you a breakdown when we go through the sales process with any of our clients prior to signing off on the listing. We go through exactly what all those fees are and what you're looking at the end of the transaction, what you're actually looking at walking away with, or your net from the sale. So there are definitely costs of doing business and costs of selling a home. And we try to very easily simplify those at the beginning. And then, of course, once we get a contract on the home, we review those again as well. So our clients know exactly what they're going to walk away with and what they have to move on with the next chapter of their life. Great.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here. All right.
Yes.
But I know you could handle it. All right. So, and I know this because we deal with it on a daily basis, that probably one of the greatest challenges in our business is not finding the right type of care for somebody, but dealing with maybe confrontational issues amongst family members, all right, where they're not in agreement on what type of care mom or dad should receive. Some think they should get a caregiver at home. Some think you should move to assisted living. Other adult children might think, don't do anything. There's nothing wrong with mom. All right. You know, we deal with that all the time. Mm-hmm. When you're confronted with that situation where maybe the family is not in agreement what should happen, whether they should sell the home, maybe they should rent the home, whatever it is, and they're not in full agreement, how do you deal with those situations?
So usually I really like to educate my clients. I want them to feel like they know all of their options, what their options are, so they can best make the same decision. So as I had said before, it's not always about making the sale. It might be bringing in a home healthcare company to determine if the home can be made safe for aging in place, what that would look like, what that would cost, what an aid would cost if they did need assistance, but then also working with a senior placement professional to show them what their options are on the other side. Maybe take them to see some communities, price those out, see what's available there, and what that option looks like. Then we would sit down with the family and review the options. And what really also kind of puts the cherry on the cake is what the individual wants. The specific individual, yes, a lot of times it's a family decision and it might come down to budget or logistics, but what does the individual themselves want? And often it's just getting the rest of the family to listen. So sometimes I have to be a little bit of a mediator and wear a different hat, even though I am a realtor. But from years of experience in doing this, I've found some easy ways to do that and to get everyone to listen to each other. And sometimes that's all it comes down to, kind of taking a breather, showing everyone all the options on the table, let them take a breather and really think about what's going to be best for mom or dad.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up something really important, and I certainly am not familiar with the additional education you received on the SRES designation that you have. I would think part of that discussion was just kind of what you said, and that is to listen and do what's right, and what might be right is maybe not selling that home quite yet.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And if you build that trust with that family, from a business standpoint, you're going to end up getting the business eventually. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, maybe next year, maybe in 2 years. But if you do the right thing, you're going to end up getting the business anyway. And I think that families would appreciate the fact that you aren't going to be putting that type of pressure on them. All right.
I would never pressure anyone into selling their home or buying a home. For me, it's all about building that relationship, and it's all about making sure that individual is safe and cared for. And you're absolutely right. We've had instances where we've gone in and the family has decided, you know what, we're going to try aging in place. Give us 6 months, give us 12 months. Let's see how it goes. Let's see if we can keep them at home a little bit longer. And then down the line, if we decide to sell, or if it's not working, or if it's getting too expensive, we can figure it out then. And I always stay in touch with my clients. I always follow up. I always check in. And sometimes, it comes to business and sometimes it doesn't. But either way, I know that I've done my best in taking care of them.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you something that actually would be helpful to me. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when we deal with families and they're looking at the possibility of selling their home, I'll always say that you should deal with an SRES specialist in real estate. If they ask me the question, why, tell me how I should respond to that.
I would say there are two things. Number one, we are specifically trained to deal with the concerns and the issues and the emotions that may arise when someone's going through this transition. We're often, and all the SRESs that I have met and that I have worked with really are doing this because something has led them in this direction, because they want to help these individuals, and it's not all about the business. And it's really taking care of the little details that help take the stress off of the individual and the family. We're there throughout the whole process, whether it's helping you find the right mover and someone to move you, or helping find someone that's going to help declutter the home and get it ready. It's really kind of that extra level of caring and concern and really knowledge. Most SRESs are really ingrained in their community and are able to provide the additional referrals for other resources that may be needed throughout the process.
That's great.
So I hope that answered your question.
That helps me quite a bit. Thank you. I appreciate that. So we have we have a few minutes left here. All right. So I'll ask you kind of a two-part question. The first part you already answered, but we want to do it again just in case somebody missed it. And that is, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, how would they go ahead and do that, and what assistance you could give them if they're looking for somebody like yourself in their area. And then just any advice that you would like to leave our listeners with, in the whole planning process.
Absolutely. Again, I am Shayne Silver with the Silver team at Keller Williams Realty. I am a seniors real estate specialist, and the easiest way to get in touch with me is you could call me at 561-571-2640, and I'll repeat that, 561-571-2640. You could visit my website at www.silverhomesales.com. And I have a network of equally wonderful SRESs, or seniors real estate specialists, throughout the country that I can connect you with. My biggest piece of advice is to reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, even if you're not in my local area, and help set you up with someone who can help you. And I also recommend meeting with at least one, if not two, because sometimes it might come down to personality. Quite often when picking a realtor, whether it's an SRES or not, sometimes it comes down to personality, and you want to find someone who you do feel you can trust. That's number one. But number two, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on the downsizing process, on the moving process, on the selling process, on finding the right facility or next step for you.
Great. Well, this was quite enlightening. I learned a lot. And so Shayne, I just want to thank you so much for joining us today on Boomers Today.
Thank you so much, Frank. Thanks for having me. I loved being here.
Great. Well, thank you. And I want to thank everybody out there for joining us on Boomers Today. Please be safe out there. We'll talk to everybody soon.
You've been listening to Boomers Today with Frank Sampson. To learn more about today's show, visit boomerstodayradio.com and join us next time for another edition of Boomers Today.